tried to re-record this so many times, and I messed up. And then when I think I'll get in a good rhythm, and then all of a sudden I get so tired. I don't know why. It's just like, I don't know what it's. Apparently, it's some type of frequency is going on in this world. It's happening to a lot of people apparently. Um, but anyways, I'm going to try to get about maybe a couple of maybe a chapter, like a chapter or two out of this one, and then maybe finish off the rest of it. Maybe not just today, but today and tomorrow I will try. Yeah, it's not gonna be guaranteed. Oh, if I do get really, really tired, I could just. I have an energy drink in the refrigerator, so I'll grab that if I need to. Anyways, wait. Okay, I'm on the wrong chapter. We are reading Black Cats Are Bad Luck, and So Are You Kid by Holly42069. Izuku wandered the house looking for anything but his teacher's home was devastatingly clean. There wasn't even dust for him to wipe his mane into. The only real mess he found were 3 cat toys scattered in the hallway into the back area of the apartment. And that was it. Though it did mean there was proof that there was another cat here. Izuku sighed and flopped onto the floor. He watched the wall for a while, tail flicking, listening to his teachers work on trying to find him in the living room just behind him. Did you see this camera across the forest? From the store across the forest? Yeah, I have. I haven't seen much. A dog was running out was what most I saw. What about this one? Closer to the fight? Yeah, it was just showing him flying into the forest. Izuku groaned. Hopefully, this will wear out soon. It was getting tiring. He stood and walked back into the living room. His English teacher and homeroom teacher were sitting together. 2 laptops and many papers around them, going through camera footage, witness reports, criminal history, everything. Izuku felt bad for the two. Don't he, Izuku felt bad for the two, worrying about him so much, even though he was right there. He also felt frustrated. He couldn't tell them who he was. He walked over and sat at the feet of his English teacher, pawing at the man's leg and meowing. The man looked down at him and smiled, admittedly nervous. Show? Mr. Ozawa looked down at the cat and smiled fondly. He sighed and leaned onto the blonde a bit more. He's just wanting attention. Mr. Yamada looked at the other disbelievingly and raised an eyebrow. Aizawa grinned and leaned his hand down, spitting at Izuku, and taunting him closer. Izuku sighed and took the bait, walking over to the hand and sitting by it, only to be picked up by said hand and brought onto his English teacher's lap. Both him and his teacher stiffened quickly, and Aizawa pet Izuku's head. The raven-haired laughed at the other's nervousness and nudged him. You you deal with sushi just fine. What's up with you? The blonde looked at the other nervously. No, the blonde looked at the other and shoved tensely. He's new, and I'm scared he's gonna bite me or pee on me. Izuku, look, Izuku, con- Izuku contemplated it for a moment and sighed, glare, simply glared at the man, who turned squeak, who turned squeak, and backed into the couch more. The his his teacher let out a gruff laugh and picked Izuku up, dispo- disposit, dispositing him in, in his lap. He's alright. He's alright. Not gonna hurt you. Izuku sighed and nodded, but it wasn't caught by the other two as the alarm went off on the voice hero's phone, spooking the three of them. The blonde reached over and grabbed the phone, turning the alarm off. That's an hour and a half. Time for bed. His teacher sighed and looked at the laptop more. Izuku watched as his face turned more sad and worried. The boy meowed softly at the man, and he immediately looked down to the small thing. He smiled and pat his head and sighing. I guess I can't I guess I can't just do this all night. I gotta get rest. Gotta get some rest so I can do everything tomorrow. That's right. Come on. The blonde stood and offered the blonde stood and offered the eraser hero a hand to stand up. The man took it and carried Izuku back to the other room, where Izuku hadn't gone. The door had been locked. But now, as his teachers opened the door, he heard a new voice. It sounded a bit like him. Oh, humans, you're finally coming to bed. I hope you know I'm displeased with how long you have been gone, and that you left me in here. Izuku immediately went on edge, and hid into his teacher's arm more. The man chuckled, and held Izuku closer, letting the small creature as he do as he needed. Izuku heard the other beast stop, and heard the door close. The other animal spoke again. Humans, what is that? Izuku stiffened at being noticed, and felt his teacher laugh below him. The man spoke again, leaning down, and with one hand leaving Izuku's back. Hey Sushi. Hey Sushi. This is our newest addition. Did you forget his name? Did you forget to name him? He felt the man holding him grumble and nervously shift. Hush, I'll figure something out. His English teacher laughed, and Izuku heard the bed creak, and his English teacher grunt. He assumed the man sat on the bed, but refused to pull his face away from he refused to pull his face away from the home from his own teacher's arm. The man below him spoke again, patting Izuku's back as he did so. Hazel. Hazel? Yeah. He got he's got really green eyes. Came out of a bush. Then name him after a bush or something. No. I mean, if you're happy, okay then. Fuck yeah. Izuku almost passed out after hearing his teachers bicker like a married couple, but hearing his own teacher, who yelled at Bakugo for language cursing, cursed himself. Izuku wanted to combust right there and then. Izuku heard the bed creak again, and felt his other teacher walk over to where his homeroom teacher held Izuku. And before Izuku knew it, the blonde was pressing into the raven-haired man. Izuku risked a glance up at them, and he quickly panicked. When he said his teachers were arguing like a married couple, he didn't think there was a reason. He just thought that they were maybe good friends or something. There had been an extra bedroom when he was exploring the apartment, but there was a ring on the finger. Oh, there was a ring on the finger holding Aizawa-sensei's face, and one hanging from the chain around his homeroom teacher's neck that made him think otherwise. But mainly the fact they were passionately kissing at the moment. Like one of those long kisses you'll see in on the Hallmark channel. Izuku jumped off his teacher's arm and landed face first on the floor. He sat there, dazed for a moment, before sitting up. Before sitting up and shaking his head off. When his ears stopped ringing, he heard his English teacher laughing his ass off. He looked up and saw the man holding onto his homeroom teacher, head on the other shoulder, while the raven-haired just watched Izuku with worry. Izuku shook himself off and sighed. He made quite a fool of himself, but this felt like a violation of privacy, and Izuku felt like he needed to get away from the two. It did make the two stop, so Izuku guessed you win some, you lose some. But then there was a heavy thump was heard behind Izuku, and a rather deep meow. Hello, new cat. Izuku also guessed he'd lost a lot. Izuku gulped and slowly turned around. Behind him was a large and fluffy tabby cat with a white belly that went up to his muzzle. He had blue eyes and glared at the small intruder. Izuku's tail bushed up a little, and he nervously spoke back to the large creature. Hello. The bigger cat huffed and walked over to Izuku, who got as low to the ground as possible and fluffed up as much as he could. The bigger cat sniffed at Izuku and prodded at him. You're very small. How old are you? Izuku gulped and took a deep breath. 16 years old. The large cat blinked at him and sighed. There, man, I don't stand alley cat talk anyways. Just stay away from my bed and my spot on the human bed, okay? Izuku nodded hurriedly, and the cat grumbled and jumped back onto the bed. Izuku flopped over and laid on his side, breathing heavily. He heard one of his teachers, Mr. Yamada, his mind supplies, coo and spoke softly to the other. Poor thing. Didn't think sushi would scare the poor tot that much. Better than them fighting, I guess, though Sushi is not really a fighter. Say that to his face, you bastard. He's a grand warrior. Izuku felt the floor below him creak as someone stepped closer to him before picking him up. He whimpered quietly at the movement and looked at his homeroom teacher unhappily. The man just smiled and walked to the small cat. He walked the small cat over to the bed, setting him down on the pillow. The other cat was on the other side and watched Izuku carefully. The blond man got onto the bed and laid his head down, where there was the least amount of cat. His homeroom teacher yawned, and doing the same. His homeroom teacher yawning and doing the same. The man pet Izuku's fur, and the boy yawned himself. The other cat watched the small one for a while before going to sleep. Along with his English teacher, who snored a bit, he watched them both for about an hour before trying to go to sleep. Izuku felt so exhausted, but couldn't quite go to sleep. So he flipped around and looked at his other teacher behind him. The man, who was staring at the ceiling, seemed lost in thought, and his face looked worried, angry, and sad. Izuku scooted a bit closer to the man's face and curled up against his ear. The man jumped a little, but pet the small creature's side. He whispered softly to the cat, "Can't sleep either, huh?" Izuku nodded, but his teacher hadn't turned his head to look at the boy, which was frustrating, but I'm worried and scared. One of my students just disappeared. Sorry. But not the best day for your adoption, huh? Izuku stiffened and watched the man. He was still watching, and he was still watching the ceiling with ah! He was still watching the ceiling with that far off look on his face. Izuku laid a little closer to the man's head, and he pat his back up a little more. You're a good cat, Hazel. Both Izuku and his teacher slowly drifted off after that, the world falling out to the blonde snoring, and the raven-haired breathing in Izuku's purr. Izuku woke up the next morning to a camera. Izuku woke up the next morning to a phone camera shutter going off, and a soft snicker over him. He grumbled and leaned into the pillow more, except hellos were not this hard, and things were and things weren't this fluffy. He blinked his eyes open, remembering the day before and sighing. He was still a cat, though he was kind of glad. It would have been weird to wake up curled next to his teacher's face as a human. He sat up, stretched. Someone behind him awed, awing in disappointment. He looked over at the source to see his other teacher holding his phone at them like he was going to take a photo, which he did. Izuku huffed and glared at the man, who chuckled nervously and put his phone away. The man stood from Izuku. Nah! The man stood from the bed and opened. Um, the man stood from the bed and walked out the room, the large cat following along behind. Izuku watched. Izuku turned to watch his other teacher, who was still asleep. Izuku didn't want to leave the man, or have another scenario, and have another encounter with the large cat. So he curled back up next to his teacher and closed his eyes. A a while later, he heard Yamada come into the room again, gently calling him. Hazel, Hazel, kitty, kitty, come here. Izuku did not move from his spot, though. He was kind of hungry, but he was also extremely comfortable. His homeroom teacher was like a furnace, somehow, and Izuku's cat body, it was, and to Izuku's cat body, it was the best thing ever. He heard the man enter the room and walk over to them. Izuku grumbled, opened his eyes, and looked at the offending man, who laughed softly at Izuku's disgruntled face. Come on, kiddo, you gotta eat. Izuku huffed, didn't didn't move still. He didn't want to deal with the other cat, and he was comfortable. Two very good reasons not to move. But he also needed to find a way to let his teacher know who he was. So he sighed, stood, trying not to bother his resting teacher, and walked over to the barn. The man chuckled and picked Izuku up. He was still holding him at arm's length, and Izuku glared at him. While it didn't hurt to be held under the armpit like this, it was uncomfortable. The man chuckled nervously, apologizing, quickly walking into the kitchen and setting him down in front of the bowl full of wet food. Izuku sighed, ate a bit of it. The other cat walked over, looked at him and his food. You gonna finish that? Izuku looked at him, back at his food, before pushing it towards the other cat with his paw. Nah, I'm alright. Finish it up. The large cat licked his lips and knelt down to his food, showing down on it. You're lost. Izuku sighed, walked away. Mr. Yamada was cooking something, and unaware of the two, so Izuku explored more. It was the same as last night. The laptops were put away, so Izuku couldn't access them. He huffed, walked back into the bedroom where his homeroom teacher was still sleeping. To be fair, it was a Saturday. God knows Izuku wouldn't get up until wouldn't get up unless he had to before 9. And it was only 8:12, according to the electronic clock on the man's nightstand. Izuku explored the room. Like the rest of the house, it was pretty clean. Nothing he could use. He grumbled and around dug around into the closet for anything, but it was clean. After a few minutes, the lights suddenly came on and spooked Izuku, making him run deeper into the closet. He heard his homeroom teacher groan, and the other chuckled lightly. Come on, Sho. Come on, Sho, you gotta get up. Eri is coming today. He heard his teacher groan and the bed creak before the other man spoke groggily. Yeah, I know. The blonde laughed a bit and shut the door. He heard the man sigh. He quickly crept over to the closet. He quietly crept over there to the closet door to look at his teacher and and saw the man rubbing his face. The man sniffled and took a deep breath before standing and walking out the room. His eyes were really red. A part of his quirk, or was he crying? Izuku didn't have time to think about it when he heard his teacher speak from the kitchen. Where's Hazel? Izuku jumped out of the closet and walked out the room, yelling at the two for attention. I am here, Rosawa-sensei. The man looked down, smiled at him, picking him up and holding him. Mr. Yamada cooed at the display and began I want to say plaguing the food. Began pledging the food. He's a strange cat. Yeah, I know. He was cuddling with you most of the night, I think. Really? The man holding him looked at the blonde, raising an eyebrow. Yeah, woke up and he was right next to your head. I have a picture. It was so cute. If Namuri gets her hands on it, I will kill you. But it's so cute to not. It's too cute not to share, show. You already sent it, didn't you? I may have already sent it. Mr. Yamada. Mr. Aizawa then took a deep breath, setting Izuku down and tackled his other teacher, who yelped and wiggled around like crazy, quickly setting the food he was preparing on the counter. Show! The man didn't respond, though. He began to tickle the man. The man began laughing hysterically and gasping for air. I yield. His teacher huffed and picked the man up, hefting him over his shoulder like a potato sack. You better. I hope you know there will be consequences. Oh my god. I hope you know there will be consequences. Izuku left before he heard the smack of his teacher slapping the other's ass. Around 10 minutes later, a knock on the door was heard. Izuku had hidden himself in the bathroom, contemplating life the display after the display in the kitchen. He heard a male voice and a small female voice greeting the other before the door shut. Chairs scraped the scraped the kitchen, and voices were heard. So, Eri, we have a surprise for you. Mr. Aizawa spoke softly to her. Izuku was inverse, slightly nervous, I guess is meant to be. But he knew the man and cared for them the same as he did Eri. The girl spoke up. What kind of surprise? We have a new addition to the house, a new cat. His name is Hazel, and we got him yesterday. So be gentle. Okay, Mr. Hazashi, sir. Izuku walked into the kitchen at that moment, meowing to make himself known. Hello, Eri. The girl looked down at him and gasped happily before the two adults scolded her. She slid off the chair and walked over to him. Izuku knew she wouldn't hurt him, so so she let him hit. Hold on, I'm gonna fix this line. Izuku knew she wouldn't hurt him, so he let her pick him up. So it was a little uncomfortable, but he dealt with it. Kitty, hello Hazel. Kitty, hello Hazel. Eri practically shouted in his ear. Izuku kinda understood why animals hated toddlers now. But he liked Eri, so he began to purr and bump his head against her instinctively. The girl giggled, and Izuku looked. Oh, the girl giggled, and Izuku looked right at the two teachers. The blonde had his mouth agape and a wide-eyed look. Time stopped as he was reaching out for Eri. The other just looked shocked. Izuku grinned as best as a cat could. They're starting to get it. I'm not a normal cat. His homeroom teacher just sighed, shrugging before speaking. Okay, Eri, put him down. Let's finish your food and you can play with him before lessons, okay? The girl nodded and sat Izuku down, patting his head, and walked back to the table, jumping onto the chair, eating her food. Izuku had an urge to fix his fur, so he bent down and looked at it. It was somehow relaxing and disgusting at the same time. He understood. He shook himself off once he was done, wandering wandering to the living room. He jumped onto the couch and laid there for a while before Ari and his English teacher walked into the room. They both sat down on the floor around the coffee table with a pen and some books. Izuku straightened up to watch what they were doing. Mr. Yamada pulled a book and opened it. It was written. It was a writing book for kids to work on their kanji. Oh, fuck yeah! Izuku thought, jumping off the couch and onto the coffee table, but was gently sat back down on the ground by the blind man. Sorry, Hazel, no cats on the table while we're working. Izuku glared at the man. He could have spelled out his name. The man nervously pat the cat's head and went back to instructing Ari. After a few minutes, Mr. Aizawa came out, except he was in his full hero gear. Mr. Yamada told Ari to keep working and stood, walking over to the man and quietly talking to him. Izuku took his chance and jumped onto the table. Ari looked at him and quietly hushed and tried to shoo him away. Bad kitty, bad. Mr. Zashi said no kitties while we're working. Izuku silently apologized to the girl, looked at her paper, and she was working on kanji alphabet, which was great. He pointed to the first one of his name. Izuku looked confused and wrote the kanji down and looked back up at Izuku. Izuku pointed to the next one and then proceeded to repeat until she had spelled his name. He tapped the table twice, and Ari looked between him and the letters confused. She didn't write them in a line, and some of the pages were filled out. Izuku hoped the message got across. The front door opened and closed gently, and a very tired look. Mr. Yamada walked in and sat back down, gently picking the cat and putting him down on the ground. The man looked down at the paper and saw what Ari had saw what Ari had written. Very good. Let's keep going, kiddo. Ari giggled and nodded. Hazel helped me pick the letters. The man smiled and rubbed the girl's head. So, oh well. Let's see. Let's see. Let's try and find the kanji to his name. Misugu thought that was really sweet, but come on. He worked too hard to do that. He hid in the closet again and totally did not pout, which was harder than anticipated. Shota was scared. One of his kids was gone. No trace. Hazashi wanted him to stop before he Hisashi wanted to stop him before he left go looking again. It made it made the man rest from the big fight they had the day before, but he couldn't. He had to find him. He had a kid to find. The mother of said kid was distraught, and All Might himself was worrying a lot. Shota didn't really understand All Might, but in the case was enough to cause great worry in the man, and even more so in himself, because Midoriya was his kid, his responsibility, and he had failed that kid so many times this year. And he was there with the kid that he was there with that kid when he had jumped in and defend his classmates against the incoming attack and got blasted by it. Though it was into the fucking atmosphere and disappeared without a trace. Shota walked into the police station and straight to Tas. Oh my god, that show was named so bad. Takasashi, who was already at his desk with papers that he sat in front of him. I need you to sign these, and I'll let you interrogate the guys we caught. Shota sighed and relaxed a bit, sitting down to sign all the papers. Oh, thank you, Takashi. Anytime, buddy. Shota didn't notice how the man was acknowledging the powerful secret within him, and worry for the future of said secret quickly blistering within him. Okay, that is all for this chapter. I'm sorry if I kept on stumbling and then you heard me like a very kind of frustrated scream. So I haven't really found an editing app yet that I absolutely like. Besides this one, and then I'll see if I can get it on my computer. I'm not gonna be. For a while, I was using CapCut for my computer, but I deleted it a while ago because I didn't use it. I didn't really like using it. I don't know why. It was just I really couldn't do it. And then the new rule or the new update they put onto the thing. If you don't know what I'm talking about, um, look it up because I can't really explain it. There are people who will explain it on TikTok if you have it. Um, but besides that, if you know any really good editing apps that are free, please tell me. Um, sorry. If you have any fic recommendations, please let me know down in the comments. And if you have any actual books recommendations, I will take those too. Because I'm trying to get into reading. Like physical book reading. Sorry, I thought I just saw somebody in this house. Hmm. I can't think of anything else. But besides that, have a good day. Yeah, have a good day. Leave kudos to the author, and make sure you eat, drink, and stay really hydrated and cooled off during this summer. Because where I'm at right now, it's like it is. Oh, currently 86 degrees, but outside, hmm, it's 86 degrees, but it's supposed to be feeling like 95. All I have to do is walk to the door and I can feel the heat. I don't like it. So I'm staying away from the outside area. I don't like it that much. But my sister loves it. I can't. But the highest is supposed to be today is um 90 93 right now. But who knows? Anyways, I hope y'all have an amazing day and I enjoyed this fic and I will try to get more out. I promise. It's just a year. The year it's been. It's my senior year. It's my last year of high school. And I thought I would have already mentally prepared myself, but I did not think I would actually absolutely love this teacher. Not in a romantic way. Not there. Um, but she's a really, really good teacher. I'm like, oh, she's funny. And like the way all teachers should be. Um, she's a really funny teacher. It's like I had this teacher. She's my art teacher. I had her since I started high school. So like that's a 4 years. 4 years of knowing her and having her class back to back. And also they're putting in this new system in the school where instead of having 4 classes a day, we're having five. Five. 5 classes a day and 3 lunches instead of 4 lunches. So instead of instead of dividing all the kids into 4 lunches, they're dividing it into three now. But I'm pretty sure we're still gonna have it in our lunch in our third block. It's either gonna be our third block or our fourth block. I'm not really happy about it. Think about it, to be honest. I'm dreading it. Anyways, have a good day. I already said eat, sleep, and dance. Get some sleep, especially with the frequency thing going on. Ugh. Yes. I swear, my sleep are fighting. Anyways, I'll see y'all later.